All right, everybody, let's jump right into it. We're diving deep into Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
Oh,
Have
okay.
you heard of this one?
Oh, yeah, classic.
It's like one of those staples in the self-help world, right?
Absolutely.
So we're not going to waste any time with the fluff.
Okay.
We're going straight to the good stuff. I mean, you are
Yeah.
here because you want to learn new things and you want to apply these powerful ideas. And
For
honestly,
sure.
this book is packed with them.
Yes, it
Like,
is.
we could spend a whole week on this
I
thing.
know, easily.
But, your time is valuable. So we've got excerpts that really cover, I think, the essence of the book. And we're going to blend those with, like, really interesting stories,
Love it.
actionable insights, things you can actually use.
Yeah.
So,
What always gets me about Hill's work is just how much research went into it. Like, this wasn't just something he, whipped up overnight. This was decades of research.
right?
He interviewed over 500 successful people, really dug into what made them tick.
It's like he went straight to the source.
Exactly.
Like the who's who of the most successful people.
The best of the best.
And I think what's really interesting, too, is this wasn't just Hill's pet project.
Right.
Andrew Carnegie, like the steel tycoon.
Oh, yeah.
He was so blown away by Hill's work that he basically bankrolled this whole research project.
Wow.
We're talking $100,000 back then.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah, that was serious money back then.
Big time.
And, Carnegie believed that this stuff was so important that he's like, this needs to be taught in schools.
I love that.
Yeah.
Imagine if we all had this knowledge from a young age.
Right? It makes you wonder, right?
Yeah.
Like, if this is so fundamental to success, why isn't it common knowledge?
Right.
Because we all say we want to think and grow rich.
Yeah.
But do we actually know how?
That's the question, isn't it?
Yeah, like how many people really feel equipped to actually make that happen?
It's funny because so many people go through life thinking that success is this exclusive club,
Yeah.
it's only for the lucky few, the ones who were born with all the advantages.
Right.
But Hill says, no, 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 that's not how it works at all.
That's not just luck.
It's not about luck. It's a formula.
Okay.
It's a set of principles that anyone can learn
I like that.
and apply.
Okay, so that's what we're here to do.
Exactly.
We're going to break this down into something you can actually use. But before we get too far ahead, Hill starts with a curious story about a little girl and a whipping.
Oh, yeah. This one's good.
Now,
It sounds a little strange at first.
yeah, when you hear unseen forces, it sounds a little out there, right?
A little bit woo-woo.
Yeah. But stick with us here because we're talking about mental forces.
Yes, that's it.
This isn't about like magic or anything.
No, it's about the power of belief.
Okay.
Like this little girl, she might have been young, she might not have had much physical strength, but she had this absolute certainty
Okay.
that she could influence the situation, and that belief is what gave her power.
So it's not about, like you said, physical strength.
Yeah.
It's not even necessarily conscious effort. It's something deeper.
Exactly.
It's about truly believing you can make something happen.
It's like that saying, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right.
I like that.
And Hill argues that many people never achieve riches because they're limited by their current circumstances.
Okay.
They see their present reality, which might be tough, and they just can't imagine anything different.
It's like they're stuck in this box.
Exactly.
Their own little box.
And they can't see beyond those walls.
Right.
But what if you could break free from that box?
Yeah, what if you could train your mind to see a different future, a future with limitless possibilities?
That's what Hill is getting at.
Okay.
He believed our thoughts, our beliefs actually shape our reality.
Okay.
And to really illustrate this, he uses the example of Henry Ford.
Okay. Henry Ford, right. I mean, everyone knows the cars, but what about the man?
Right, exactly.
What was his secret sauce?
Well, and that's the thing with Ford. Hill says his success wasn't some big mystery. It really boiled down to his way of thinking.
Okay.
Like Ford, he refused to let his background hold him back.
He didn't come from money.
Not at all. He had very little to work with, but he could still dream big, you know?
Yeah.
He had this vision of himself building these automobiles, changing the world, and it became his reality.
It's like they say, shoot for the moon. Even if you miss, you'll land among the stars.
Exactly.
But you have to actually shoot,
You can't just think about it.
right? You have to take action.
And that leads perfectly into another story Hill shares about Edwin Barnes and Thomas Edison.
Okay. I might need a refresher on this one.
Okay, so Barnes, he didn't just want to work for Edison. This guy wanted to work with Edison.
Yes, and like partners.
Business partners, the whole shebang.
Wow, that's thinking big.
Right. And here's the kicker, Barnes. He starts out as a nobody in Edison's company.
Oh, wow. So how do you make that leap?
It all comes down to belief, like unshakable belief.
Okay.
He goes to Edison, no real plan, no fancy resume, just pure conviction that they will be
It's
partners.
just like that?
He willed it into existence.
I mean, I guess that's something.
It's everything. And he backed it up, started from the bottom, always adding value, proving himself.
So it wasn't just talk. He put in the work, too.
Oh, absolutely. But that belief fueled him, and eventually, guess what? He became Edison's partner.
No way.
Yep.
That's wild. So it really is about, like, burning those bridges, no going back.
100%. Barnes, another guy Hill talks about, Marshall Field, they get it.
He was Marshall Field?
He's the department store guy, had this iconic store.
Okay, right. I've heard of that.
So Field loses everything in the Great Chicago Fire.
Oh, that's awful.
Right, total devastation. But you know what he says? He's rebuilding on that same spot no matter what.
Talk about determination?
And he did. That's commitment.
Wow.
Makes you think, what are we willing to go all in for?
Right. Like, what are we actually passionate enough about to burn those bridges?
Exactly. And that leads us to Hill's 6 steps to riches.
Okay, let's hear them.
But before we get into it, you got to know this isn't just a checklist.
Okay, so what is it then?
It's about really taking these steps to heart, internalizing them.
All right, I'm ready. Hit me with it.
Number 1, fix in your mind exactly what you desire. We're not talking vague wishes here. This is about crystal clear vision.
So, like, if you could take a picture of your success, what would it look like?
Exactly. And number 2, determine what you intend to give in return for achieving your desire. Because real talk.
Nothing comes for free.
Exactly. Got to be willing to sacrifice.
Makes sense.
Number 3, and this is key, establish a definite date by which you intend to possess your desire.
Deadlines. Gotta love them. But seriously, how does that work for, like, life goals?
It creates that fire, that sense of urgency.
Gotcha.
Number 4, create a definite plan and begin at once. Don't wait for the perfect moment, just start.
Okay, so action over perfection.
You got it. Number 5, write it all down. Your desire, what you're giving, your deadline.
Make it real.
Exactly. And finally, number 6, read that statement out loud, twice a day, once before bed, once when you wake up.
Intense.
It's about imprinting that vision on your mind.
Like subliminal messaging almost.
Exactly. So it's not just wishful thinking. It's about deliberate effort and that unshakable belief.
Right, and that's where imagination comes in, right?
Absolutely. Hill was big on imagination.
I can see that.
But he wasn't just talking about daydreaming. He saw it as a tool.
What do you mean?
He talks about 2 types. Synthetic imagination, which is basically taking existing ideas and rearranging them.
Okay, so like remixing what you already know.
Exactly. And then there's creative imagination. This is where you tap into brand new, original ideas.
So it's like the difference between making a playlist and composing a symphony.
You got it. One is great, but the other is like next level.
Right, so how do we actually use all this imagination to achieve our goals?
Think of it this way. Synthetic imagination helps you with the day-to-day, improving what you already do. But creative imagination, that's where the breakthroughs happen, the game-changing ideas.
I love that. So it's like having both tools in your belt.
Exactly. You got to be able to refine and revolutionize.
Okay, so is that where the old kettle story comes in?
You got it. This story perfectly illustrates this idea.
Okay, remind me how it goes again.
So there's this young clerk, and he buys this rusty old kettle and a wooden paddle from this old doctor.
Sounds kind of random.
For $500. But the real prize wasn't the kettle itself.
I'm guessing there's more to this kettle.
Way more. Inside was a piece of paper, and on that paper was a secret formula.
Oh, here we go. I knew it. What was the formula for?
Homemade cough syrup.
Cough syrup. That's it.
Don't underestimate the power of cough syrup. This wasn't just any cough syrup. It was the doctor's family recipe, passed down for generations.
Okay, so it's like a family heirloom.
Right, but the clerk, he saw beyond the sentimental value. He saw the business potential.
Okay, so how do you turn cough syrup into a gold mine?
He understood that people weren't just buying a product, they were buying a story.
Oh.
He marketed it as this old-fashioned remedy full of history and care.
So it was like buying a piece of the past.
Exactly. And it worked. He turned that simple recipe into a multi-million-dollar business.
That's amazing. He took something so ordinary and made it extraordinary.
Precisely. And it's the same with Dr. Gonzalez and his $1 million sermon.
Wait, $1 million sermon? What's that all about?
This young preacher, Dr. Gonzalez, he had this dream of building a new college.
Okay, noble goal, but $1 million is a lot of money.
Especially back then, it seemed impossible.
So how'd he do it?
Well, he had this unwavering belief. He could see that $1 million, feel it as if he already had it,
Okay.
and then it hit him. He'd preach a sermon, But not just any sermon, one titled, What I Would Do If I Had $1 Million.
Wow. Talk about putting it out there. Did it work?
Oh, it did. The sermon was electric. You could feel his passion, his conviction.
I bet.
And guess what? The very next day, this prominent businessman, Philip Armour, he approaches Gonzalez with $1 million.
No way. Are you serious? Just like that?
Just like that. His belief, his unwavering desire, it acted like a magnet, drawing in the resources he needed.
So it's not enough to just want something. You got to truly believe you can have it.
Exactly. It goes back to Hill's 6 steps. Write it down, visualize it, make it real in your mind.
Powerful stuff. So we've talked about burning bridges, the 6 steps, imagination. What else is there?
Well, we can't forget about the power of collaboration, the mastermind principle.
Yes, a mastermind, like having your own personal dream team, right?
Exactly. Hill believed that we're not meant to do it all alone.
Makes sense.
He said when you surround yourself with people who share your vision, the possibilities are endless.
And he had some pretty impressive examples, didn't he? Like Ford, Edison, Firestone.
Oh, absolutely. Those guys were proof that collaboration can lead to incredible breakthroughs.
Right, but I imagine it's not always smooth sailing. Are there things that can derail a mastermind?
Definitely. Hill outlines 30 major causes of failure, and some of the biggest ones are lack of purpose, lack of ambition, not enough education, no self-discipline, procrastination.
Okay, yeah, those are all pretty self-explanatory.
But the big takeaway is to choose your mastermind carefully. Surround yourself with people who are positive, supportive, and on the same page as you.
Right, because negativity can be contagious.
Exactly. So choose wisely. And remember, clear communication and mutual respect are key for a successful mastermind.
Collaborating with the right people is powerful. But we've also got to be honest with ourselves about those 30 major causes of failure. Some of those hit close to home. It makes me think about how often fear holds us back.
You've hit on a crucial point. Hill dedicates a significant portion of Think and Grow Rich to dissecting fear, calling out those 6 ghosts that haunt us. Fear of poverty, criticism, ill health, loss of love, old age, and even death itself.
Those fears are universal. It's easy to listen to a list like that and feel overwhelmed. Are we supposed to just power through them?
Not at all. Hill's approach is more nuanced than that. He argues that fear thrives on indecision. When we waffle, second-guess ourselves, and let doubt creep in, we give fear the power to control us. But when we make a firm decision about how we'll respond, we take back that power.
It's like that feeling you get after making a tough decision. Even if there's still some uncertainty, there's also a sense of relief, a forward momentum. Could you give us an example of what that looks like with one of these fears?
Absolutely. Let's take the fear of poverty. You're worried about money, bills are piling up, and that anxiety starts to seep into every aspect of your life. Hill suggests making a firm decision to get along with whatever wealth you can accumulate without that worry consuming you. This doesn't mean giving up on your financial goals, but rather shifting your focus.
So it's not about resigning yourself to a life of scarcity, but about choosing how you want to respond to your current circumstances. Instead of fixating on what you lack, you appreciate what you have and use it as a springboard for growth.
Exactly. It's about resourcefulness, creativity, and trusting that you'll always have what you need. And that same principle applies to the fear of criticism. We've all been there, right? That hesitation to share your work, your ideas, because you're afraid of judgment.
Oh, absolutely. That fear of criticism can be terrorizing, especially for someone like me who loves learning and putting myself out there.
Hill's advice for dealing with this fear is to decide that you will no longer worry about what other people think, do, or say. Now, he's not saying to become insensitive or disregard feedback. It's about recognizing that you cannot please everyone, and trying to do so will only hold you back from your true potential.
It's about focusing on your own path, your own vision, and trusting your inner compass. It reminds me of that quote, "What other people think of me is none of my business."
Exactly. It all comes back to self-worth. Your value doesn't hinge on external validation. It comes from within. Now, what about the fear of ill health? That's a big one these days, especially with so much information and misinformation constantly coming at us.
It's easy to get caught in a cycle of worry, constantly scanning for symptoms, always anticipating the worst.
Hill's approach here is about shifting from a place of fear to a place of empowerment. He suggests making a conscious decision to focus on wellness rather than illness.
So it's about taking proactive steps to take care of your physical and mental health, but it's also about your mindset. Instead of dwelling on what could go wrong, you focus on what's strong and vibrant within you.
Precisely. It's about becoming an active participant in your own well-being, both physically and mentally.
And what about the fear of loss of love? That's a deeply human fear, the idea of losing someone we cherish or ending up alone.
For this fear, Hill emphasizes the importance of self-love. It's about recognizing your own worthiness of love and connection without depending solely on another person for your happiness or fulfillment.
So it's not about closing yourself off from love, but rather about cultivating a strong foundation of self-love so that you can approach relationships from a place of wholeness and security.
Exactly. And when it comes to the fear of old age, which often gets painted in such a negative light, Hill challenges us to reframe our perspective. He encourages us to embrace aging as a natural part of life, a time for growth, wisdom, and new experiences.
It's about seeing aging not as a decline, but as a continuation and evolution. There's a lot of beauty and wisdom to be found in the later stages of life.
Absolutely. Every stage of life has its own unique gifts. And finally, we come to the ultimate fear, the fear of death. It's something that we all will face, and Hill doesn't shy away from that reality.
This is where things get really profound. How can we possibly overcome the fear of something as immense and inevitable as death?
Hill doesn't suggest overcoming it in the sense of pretending it doesn't exist. He reminds us that death is a natural part of the cycle of life and encourages us to make peace with that inevitability. The key is to shift our focus from fear of the unknown to appreciation for the present moment.
It's about living a life so full, so aligned with our purpose, that we can face the end without regret.
Beautifully said, and it circles back to Hill's overarching message. We have far more power than we realize. We are not victims of our circumstances or our fears. We are creators of our own reality.
It's inspiring and empowering. And Hill leaves us with one final provocative thought to ponder as we embark on this journey of personal growth and achievement: the concept of building an imaginary council.
Ah, yes. The Imaginary Council, a powerful visualization technique where we assemble a group of people we admire, whether they're historical figures, mentors, or even fictional characters, and seek their guidance.
It's like having access to a personal board of advisors, offering wisdom, inspiration, and support every step of the way. So as you move forward, putting these principles into practice, consider this. Who would you invite to your imaginary council, and what advice would you seek from them? That's a powerful question to reflect on as you step into the driver's seat of your own life, shaping a future that's aligned with your deepest desires and greatest potential.